The development of Hell Is Us began in 2019, led by Rogue Factor, a Canadian studio known for Mordheim City of the Damned. The project is directed by Jonathan Jacques Bellatet, former art director for Deus Ex Human Revolution and Deus Ex Mankind Divided, who sought to create a more creative and agile experience, moving away from the restrictions of high-budget AAA games. Tired of massive productions that prioritize large-scale sales, Jacques Bellatet chose to work with a reduced team of about 50 people, allowing for greater flexibility and experimentation. The choice for a smaller team reflects the intention to compete with super productions, inspired by the success of indie games like Clair Obscur Expedition 33. The game was announced by the publisher Nacon in April 2022. With an initial release forecast for 2023, but delays pushed the final date to September 4, 2025. Hell Is Us is developed on Unreal Engine 5, ensuring stunning visuals that blend fantasy and science fiction, as highlighted by IGN previews. Rogue Factor opted for a bold approach, eliminating maps, compasses, and mission markers inspired by 90s games to create an immersive experience where players rely on their intuition and observation. This philosophy, called player plattering, seeks to rescue the essence of organic exploration, contrasting with the excessive assistance of modern games. The game's narrative and design were influenced by works such as the 2018 film Annihilation and Jeff Vandermeer's Southern Reach trilogy, focusing on deep themes like civil war, human violence, and family. Jacques Bellatet emphasized the creation of a complex universe that mixes reality and supernatural phenomena with a mature story that adapts to players' choices, offering multiple paths and solutions for investigative challenges. The development prioritized a tactical melee combat system with weapons like swords, spears, and axes designed to face supernatural creatures immune to modern weapons, complemented by a drone called Kapi, essential for combat and exploration. The development process advanced significantly, with the game reaching the gold phase in July 2025, almost 2 months before release, indicating that the main work was completed with room for polishing and a day one patch. Rogue Factor also released a demo in August 2025, available on the Epic Games Store, which showcased the gameplay and received praise for its audacity in challenging conventions, despite specific criticisms about performance drops. The demo reinforced the guideless approach, with the story being revealed through NPCs, documents, and items, creating an air of mystery and demanding attention to environmental details. The production of Hell Is Us reflects an attempt to balance creative ambition with limited resources, seeking innovation within the action-adventure genre. Rogue Factor bet on an experience that values player autonomy, with a design that encourages experimentation and reflection. Jacques Bellatet's choice for a less conventional project, combined with inspiration from dense narratives and challenging mechanics, positions Hell Is Us as a promising title, described by critics as one of the most original action RPGs of 2025. The presentation at Gamescom 2025 and the gameplay trailers released during events like State of Play reinforced the studio's confidence in delivering a unique and impactful experience. Hell Is Us is a third-person action-adventure game set in Hadea, a fictional, isolated country devastated by a bloody civil war. The story revolves around Remy, the protagonist, who was born in Hadea but was taken away by his parents as a child, leaving him with fragmented memories and unanswered questions about his origins. Now, as part of a peace mission sent to the territory, Remy returns with the goal of uncovering the secrets of his past and understanding the reasons his parents abandoned him. The narrative is presented in a fragmented way, encouraging players to piece together the plot through clues found in the environment, dialogues with NPCs, and documents scattered throughout the world. This approach creates an immersive experience, where the player must interpret and connect the dots to understand the story. In addition to the human conflict that plagues Hadea, the plot is intensified by a supernatural event known as the Calamity. This mysterious phenomenon gave rise to supernatural creatures, called Hollow Walkers, which manifest as figures inspired by ancient tombs and monuments of the region. These creatures are immune to modern weapons, forcing Remy to use an arsenal of melee weapons, such as swords, spears, and axes, forged specifically to combat them, in addition to a drone called Kapi, which assists in exploration and combat. The Calamity not only adds a layer of terror and mystery to the narrative, but is also intrinsically linked to the secrets of Remy's past and the history of Hadea. suggesting a deep connection between the supernatural events and human violence. The narrative of Hell Is Us is structured to reflect on the cyclical nature of human violence, a central theme highlighted by creative director Jonathan Jacques Belletet. He describes the game as an exploration of human emotions and passions that fuel perpetual conflicts, suggesting that war and the calamity are reflections of the darkness inherent in humanity. Remy, throughout his journey, not only faces the Hollow Walkers, but also deals with the horrors of the Civil War, encountering civilians, soldiers, and other characters who offer perspectives on the conflict and clues about his own history. The absence of mission markers, maps, or compasses reinforces the idea that the player must immerse themselves in the world and the narrative, trusting their intuition to advance. The story is not delivered in a linear or explicit way, but rather through an approach called player plattering, which avoids providing ready-made answers and encourages the player to explore, observe, and make decisions on their own. This narrative choice, combined with challenging combat and intuitive exploration, creates a unique experience, where Remy's journey to understand his past and face the supernatural creatures reflects a greater search for meaning in a chaotic world. The game is scheduled for release on September 4, 2025 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC, promising an engaging and reflective adventure. The gameplay of Hell Is Us is centered on a third-person action-adventure experience, with a strong emphasis on melee combat and intuitive exploration. The player controls Remy, a soldier who faces supernatural creatures known as Hollow Walkers, in a semi-open world devastated by a civil war and a mysterious calamity. The combat is described as intense and strategic, inspired by Souls-like style games, but without fully adopting that formula. Remy uses a variety of melee weapons, such as swords, spears, and axes, each with distinct attack styles and speeds, requiring the player to learn enemy patterns and manage resources to survive the confrontations. A distinctive element of the gameplay is the absence of traditional aids, such as maps, compasses, or mission markers. Rogue Factor, the game's developer, opted for a blind exploration approach, where players must rely on their intuition, observation, and interaction with the environment and NPCs to progress. This means paying attention to character dialogue and visual clues in the scenery to deduce the next steps, reviving the spirit of classic adventure games from the 1990s. This mechanic seeks to create a deep immersion where the player feels the thrill of discovering the path on their own without artificial guides. Remy's drone, called Cappy, is an essential component of the gameplay, playing roles in both combat and exploration. In combat, the drone can distract enemies, allowing the player to reposition or attack strategically. Outside of battles, Cappy assists in solving puzzles, interpreting clues, and decoding ancient languages, enriching the exploration. Managing health and stamina is also crucial. Stamina gradually regenerates, but health does not, and maximum stamina is limited by the current health level. Fighting while exhausted leaves Remy weaker and more vulnerable, requiring careful planning. Exploration in Hell Is Us is complemented by dungeons scattered throughout the world of Hadia, each with its own unique style and challenges. These areas do not follow the modern context of the game, but feature ancestral scenarios that connect to the narrative, offering rewards and more information about the story. The absence of markings forces the player to navigate these dungeons with attention, overcoming obstacles and enemies to achieve a sense of accomplishment. Rogue Factor highlights that these areas reinforce the philosophy of immersion and reward for organic exploration, without depending on explicit directions. The gameplay also offers difficulty customization options, allowing players to adjust the experience to their preferences. There are 3 predefined difficulty levels, with the possibility of changing variables such as enemy life and damage, aggression, and even death penalties, such as resetting enemies or accumulated experience. This flexibility makes the game accessible, both for those seeking an experience focused on story and exploration, and for those who prefer a more intense combat challenge. The combination of tactical combat, intuitive exploration, and support mechanics like the drone creates a gameplay that values the player's intelligence and immersion. The graphics of Hell Is Us are one of the highlights of the game, developed by Rogue Factor with Unreal Engine 5, which provides next-gen visuals. The setting in a semi-open world devastated by a civil war and a supernatural calamity is portrayed with impressive details, creating an immersive and dark atmosphere. The scenarios combine elements of fantasy and science fiction, with landscapes that vary between urban ruins and corrupted natural areas, all rendered with high-quality textures and advanced lighting effects, such as Lumen, which guarantees realistic reflections and shadows. This technological choice elevates the visual impact, standing out especially in night scenes or in environments with strong light contrast. The game features a unique visual style, with a mixture of new weird aesthetics and fictional cultural elements inspired by monuments and tombstones, which manifest in the supernatural creatures known as Hollow Walkers. These enemies have grotesque and detailed designs, with forms that resemble living sculptures, which adds a layer of strangeness and originality to the graphics. The attention to detail in the creature models and particle effects during combat reinforces the feeling of a hostile and enigmatic world. The graphics also benefit from the absence of intrusive interface elements, such as mini-maps or mission markers, which truly ascends to the visual immersion of the player. Rogue Factor opted for a minimalist HUD, head-up display design, allowing the game's visuals to be the main focus of the experience. This approach makes exploration more organic, with the environment itself serving as a guide, highlighting the quality of the scenarios. The detailed textures of the environments, such as dense vegetation and moss-covered ruins, create a world that seems alive and interactive, encouraging the player to observe every detail to progress in the narrative. The demo available on Steam exemplifies this, with about an hour and a half of visually rich content, although some players have reported performance issues in initial settings. However, the graphics of Hell is Us require robust hardware, especially for higher settings. The minimum requirements include a GPU like the RTX 2080 Ti or AMD RX 6750 XT to run at 1080p at 30 FPS with a medium preset, while the Ultra preset in 4K at 30 FPS demands an RTX 4090 or RX 7900 XTX, even with upscaling technologies like DLSS activated. This positions the game among the most demanding on the market, which reflects the complexity of its visuals. The graphics of Hell is Us are designed to reinforce the narrative and gameplay, with an aesthetic that combines beauty and oppression. The choice to eliminate maps and traditional guides makes the player directly depend on the visuals to navigate and understand the game world. The demo, available until June 16, 2025, demonstrates how the graphics are central to the experience, with scenarios that range from dense forests to devastated cities, all full of details that encourage exploration. Hell is Us is highly recommended for players who appreciate action-adventure experiences with a strong emphasis on autonomous exploration. The game is ideal for those who like challenges that require observation and reasoning. Without maps, compasses, or mission markers, it appeals to those who are attracted to games that respect their intelligence, such as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Elden Ring. Players who enjoy exploring detailed environments, deciphering visual and narrative clues, will find an immersive and rewarding experience in Hell is Us. The title is also indicated for fans of deep narratives and mature themes. The game addresses themes such as human violence and emotional cycles. Those who like stories with dark tones and complex mysteries, similar to Death Stranding or Jeff Vandermeer's Southern Reach trilogy, will be attracted by the dense atmosphere and the fragmented narrative that unfolds gradually. Players who appreciate intense combat, but not necessarily in the Souls-like style, will also find appeal in Hell is Us. The combat system emphasizes precise attacks, dodges, and the strategic use of a drone to distract enemies, with a variety of weapons such as swords, spears, and axes. Although the difficulty is adjustable, the focus is on strategy and learning enemy patterns, which makes it ideal for those who like games like Nioh or Tomb Raider, but prefer something less punitive than a Dark Souls. In addition, the game is perfect for those who value unique art direction and immersive environments. With visuals that mix sci-fi, gothic, and surrealist elements, Hell is Us offers a visually striking world. Players who are enchanted by distinct aesthetics, such as those of Control or Annihilation, and who enjoy exploring areas rich in detail, will be captivated by the setting of Hadia. Finally, Hell is Us is recommended for those who seek an experience that combines puzzles, exploration, and combat in an organic way. The puzzles, integrated into the environment and the narrative, require observation and memory, attracting players who like intellectual challenges, such as those found in Myst or Returnal. Those who prefer games that do not guide them every step of the way but reward curiosity and deduction will find a unique and engaging adventure in Hell is Us, ideal for those who want to get lost in a hostile world and discover its secrets on their own. Well, that was the video. I hope you liked it and see you next time.